Hello everyone and welcome to Lynx as a totem. This video is going to focus on the Canadian lynx, which is the same lynx we have in North America. There are actually 4 different species of lynx, including the American bobtail cat. So a bobtail is a lynx, but a lynx isn't a bobtail, if that makes any sense. And there are also 2 European species. So if your lynx that you're identifying with is not the Canadian lynx, you may want to contact me for some extra information or for a more specific reading, because there are going to be a couple of crucial differences. A lot of similarities, but again, a few things that are different. So, the Canadian lynx. The first thing we notice in all species of lynx is that they have these black tufts on their ears. And these little tufts of hair actually act as antennas. They allow the lynx to hear really tiny sounds from really tiny prey. So this has the effect of making a lynx person very clairaudient. They have psychic hearing. They can hear what others don't say. They can pick up on small auditory details that others might miss. It also means that they will receive a lot of their wisdom through auditory cues. So I'm very clairaudient. I will often wake up in the middle of the night with song lyrics in my head that are very important, or I'll wake up with a song in my head, turn on the radio, and that's the first song that's on, and again, it's usually important for the day. These people may also actually hear the voices of their guides, so receive instructions in words or songs. Lynx cats are also they have excellent vision, and in fact their vision is so good that they can spot a mouse 250 feet away, and that's like 3/4 of the length of a football field. So you can see something that little bitty that far away. And lynx are actually so well known for their excellent vision that in Greek mythology, Norse mythology, Native American mythology, they're actually painted as the revealers of hidden truths. This excellent vision makes lynx people very clairvoyant, able to see what's going on behind the scenes or see what other people are trying to hide. They can see into the shadows. So when somebody is very clairvoyant, a lot of their wisdom will come through the form of things they can see. They might just suddenly find themselves noticing a billboard or a particular picture. They might actually have a vision. They might have very precognitive dreams, for example. But lynx people notice details. They notice little bitty, teeny tiny inconsistencies and changes, and these are very, very important for them usually as far as spiritual guidance goes. Now, lynx it's a very interesting creature when it comes to its relationship with water. They have these enormous snowshoe paws that let them just float over the snow. In a way, like, have you ever seen Lord of the Rings? It's like Legolas, the elf is walking on top of the snow while everything else is struggling through it. That's a lynx person. Now, snow is the water, or the frozen water, which is emotions in metaphysical terms. So here you have a person who can almost sail over emotions that would drown other people on some days, where big, huge, dramatic things that would swallow others whole, the lynx person doesn't even seem to notice, or they may even be emotionally numb at times. And yet, the lynx cat also really loves to swim and is very good at it, meaning that they can really get deep into their emotions. Lynx people can feel everything, and one day they're just feeling transported by bliss, or deeply depressed, or deeply afraid, but it's big and huge and visceral. So you have the snow on one hand and the swimming on the other. And so what this means for the lynx person is that one day they may feel everything, and the next day they may feel nothing at all. And this makes it, well, difficult for the lynx person, for one thing. There's a propensity to create manic depression in this case. But it makes it difficult to form relationships, because from day to day to day, somebody may not know what to expect from the lynx person, and the lynx doesn't know what to expect from themselves. And so part of the challenge of being a lynx person is to learn to understand their emotional cycles and come to a place of peace no matter where they are. So if they're feeling deeply emotional, they roll with these emotions without making any hasty decisions. They just let themselves be in these emotions. And if they're feeling numb, then they learn to analyze what's going on around them in ways that don't involve visceral feelings. Now, the lynx cat is active the most at dawn and dusk. They get up just before dawn, they hunt and hunt and hunt, and then daylight shows up and they sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep all day. And then it's dusk and they get up again and they run around and they hunt and hunt and hunt. And then for the rest of the night, they are up and about, but it's not their primary hunting time. And so what this means for the lynx person is that first and foremost, they're going to be very interested in life's mysteries and what's going on behind the shadows. It kind of factors into their clairaudience and clairvoyance. Dawn and dusk have always been traditionally known as the between times. In Celtic mythology, it's the time when the veil between the world is thinnest and you can slip into fairyland or wind up in the spirit world if you're not careful. So for the lynx person, this means they have an extra ability to really be in touch with what's going on in the shadows and to sometimes see what's going on in the shadows of a person. But on a physical level, this often creates insomnia. And the reason for this is that you've got a person whose natural biorhythms want them to be up and active at night, and sleeping all day. So if you are a lynx person with a 9-to-5 job, then you're probably dragging through your workday and then you try to go to bed and you're wide awake. So if you do have insomnia, one of the things you can do for yourself is see if you can adjust your work schedule. Lynx people really are comfortable working the graveyard shift a lot of times, or maybe find a different job that matches your biorhythms a little bit better. But this isn't really something you can medicate because this is just the way your body wants to be. Now, lynx are solitary hunters and they have solitary lives for the most part. They're more tolerant of other big cats than most other big cat species. They will occasionally stay together after the birth of kittens, or two females may hunt together for a little while, but it doesn't last very long. For the most part, the lynx is a very solitary creature, and so lynx people, they tend to be loners. They tend to be introverts. They tend to be very comfortable with their own company, and they will fiercely resist anybody who tries to shove them into a group setting when they don't want to go. So they tend to, again, be by themselves a lot, and yet they too make great mothers and fathers. When lynx mate, when the cats mate, the father leaves even before the kittens are born. And mommy lynx is left to be super mommy and take care of her kittens all by herself in most cases. So somebody with a lynx totem will also often be a single mother or father. A lot of times their child is the result of a very brief relationship or maybe even a one-night stand. And so this is kind of lonely and frustrating. Any of you guys out there who know what it's like to be a single parent, you know. But lynx people are uniquely suited for it. They can handle the job in a way that many other people can't. They are very, very self-sufficient. They are survivors. They are resourceful. Now, obviously, if there are going to be little bitty kitties born, and in this case, little bitty babies for the lynx person, then that means that occasionally they do want to find a relationship. What's really interesting about the lynx is that it has a mating call very different from that of other cats. If you've ever heard a cat in heat, you know it sounds like something is dying or being strangled. It's the most horrendous sound. And yet the lynx has a call of such utter despondency. It's almost poetic. People who've heard it say it sounds human in its need for companionship. So when a lynx person feels the need to have a relationship or they just want some physical contact, it takes up every piece of them. It becomes so urgent. When they feel lonely, they feel lonely. And sometimes this can become overwhelming. So for the lynx person, part of their journey is going to involve kind of getting a handle on this intense need to have another person just at this spontaneous moment where they recognize that, yes, it is important for them to go find someone, to have some physical contact, to have a brief fling, a one-night stand. But they need to make sure they take proper precautions if they aren't ready to have children come into their life as a result, because they are likely to have children out of wedlock in this case, or out of a relationship. Now, the Lynx people have some difficulty sometimes with their families. And this is reflected in the fact that the lynx has this bobbed tail. Again, a bobtail cat is a form of lynx, and the Canadian lynx has the bobbed tail. The tail in other cats relates to balance, and it also relates to the idea of ancestry, to rootedness. With the bobbed tail in the lynx, it indicates in a lynx person a certain absence of security, of ancestry, of connectedness. This is not necessarily a bad thing. Some of the most important journeys we can go on begin when we differentiate ourselves from our families, when we realize we are not like these people at all. So again, this isn't a bad thing, but it does sometimes make for a lonely journey. So lynx people, again, may not have a deep connection with their family. They may not really find themselves able to create one. They may not need one. Sometimes this just means that they're totally self-sufficient. The lack of the tail also, however, can mean being ungrounded. It may mean that they scatter their energies, or that they aren't really understanding of their desires. Things aren't concrete for them. And so for the lynx person, having this lack of stability, this lack of security, this kind of up and down with what they want, and again, being kind of scattered, means that it'll be very important for them to seek grounding influences in their lives, to find things that will make them feel better, make them feel safer, make them feel more connected. This can be spiritual things like meditation, it can be exercise, it can be other people, it can just be investment in a task or a hobby, something that they love. When it comes to friendships, lynx people do tend to have one person on whom they rely deeply, and this person will usually have been with them for much of their life. This is reflected in the relationship of the lynx with the snowshoe hare, which is its primary form of prey and nourishment. When the hare population drops, the lynx population drops. They're that deeply entwined. And so the lynx person will often have a hare person in their life. Somebody who's a bit anxious, a bit flighty, and yet very loving and maternal. So this person knows how to make the lynx feel more grounded, how to make them feel safer, more nourished, make them feel better about themselves. But because it's a predator-prey relationship, the lynx may actually take advantage of this person on time. And this is not necessarily because the lynx is a mean person or because they want to hurt the hare person. It's just that they really don't have anyone else with whom they can speak or on whom they can rely. And so for both parties in this case, it's important for the lynx person to realize where they may be pressing their rabbit friend a little too hard, and where maybe they can take care of something on their own, where they can learn to love themselves better. And for the hare person, they need to learn how to set some boundaries and say no, and to gently inform the lynx person that maybe they just don't have the energy for whatever's going on with them at that time. So both partners receive a form of development out of this. With regard to to lynx people deciding what to do with themselves, certain totems are better suited to certain careers. It is important that the lynx person has constant stimulation. They can't be bored. When lynx hunts, it's really interesting. They will spend hours and hours and hours focused on their prey. It's so interesting for them. Lynx, like all other cats, are naturally curious, and lynx people are very curious. They've got to constantly have something stimulating them in the way, again, watching prey, observing something, watching little subtle changes, waiting for it to get into the exact right place where they can grab it. And a lynx will sit still for like 7 hours, literally, not move, and just watch this little critter until it is in the perfect place where the lynx can jump on it. But when the time comes to actually catch the thing, if the lynx jumps and the prey runs and the lynx doesn't have it in 5 leaps, gives up. It's not interested anymore. So in the same way with a lynx person, they are endlessly fascinated with plans. They love to dream. They love to fantasize. They want to think about what it'll be like to get whatever they're after. They want to arrange things. but they're actually less interested in having that thing than they are about the process that it takes to obtain it. So if you're a Lynx person, it is going to be really, really important for you to be in a line of work where you are the one who is arranging things, you're making the plans, you're staying constantly stimulated. You're not necessarily going to be the person who implements those plans because that's boring to you for the most part. And Lynx doesn't want to get bored. Again, curiosity killed the cat. Curiosity can kill the Lynx person if they let themselves get carried away with other things besides work because work isn't interesting enough. Now, I hope this has answered a lot of your questions about what it means to be a Lynx person. Again, if you have a different kind of Lynx than the one discussed here, you can always contact me personally for a reading to elaborate a little bit for you. In the meantime, if you have any other questions or want to know about your unique animal, you can always reach me here on YouTube. You can reach me at my webpage, which is www.ravenlightholistic.healing. You can see what I'm up to through my blog, and you can also check me out at Facebook at facebook.com/ravenlightholistic.healing.